I'm about to show you something that has fundamentally changed how I think about building a sales team. This isn't another GPT wrapper. This is a tool that can actually be your 24/7 employee that runs on your own machine or the cloud with the power to execute tasks fully autonomously, not just talk to them. And to prove it, I've used it to build out a 100% automated agent that generates qualified leads for you by handling both outreach and inbound, which essentially means agents can now be able to do all of the work a small sales team normally would. By the end of this video, you'll understand what the tool is, how to set it up, and how you can use it to build your own AI sales team so you can scale your outreach as efficiently and effectively as possible. First and foremost, what the heck is OpenClaw? OpenClaw is actually on its third iteration of the name. Basically, it came out as Clawdbot, which is, to me, the OG name, as it originally implies, is you're essentially tying in Claude code with an autonomous bot that can do basically all the agentic things that you would do on a computer. And so then it went to a couple more iterations after Anthropic went to them and said, hey, you can't be using that name, bro. They went ahead and reframed the name to Moltbot, and now we have OpenClaw. So there you have it. That is the name. So if you hear Clawdbot, Moltbot, or OpenClaw, it's essentially tying to the same thing. So if you go to their website, it's now openclaw.ai, and just give it a good look. You know, obviously there's a lot of good case studies and use cases, and there's quite a bit of things that you can do to quick start it. You have your one-liner, which you just copy this into a terminal. You can install it via npm. You can do it through Hackable. You can also download a binary file for Mac OS, but you'll be able to do basically a quick start thing. And I'm going to show you a thing that I like to do, and there's a reason for that, is being able to just download the repository, download the code, and then you have the code on the actual instance. So that way it can do self-learning and improve its skills right there. Scroll down, you can get a little bit more information on how it works. So it runs on your machine. Any chat application, you can have it do iMessage, WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack, any sort of message that you want to be able to actually message it. So this one is persistent memory because it documents everything and it just knows, and it's kind of rolling on, right? It has browser control, full system access, so it can modify files. And then this is the biggest thing, is skills and plugin. So you want to think about skills like you're training an employee. You can effectively inject knowledge into an AI agent to give it context on what you want it to do, how you want it to do it, and to do it every single time. And then you gave it the tools, i.e. plugins, in order to actually do those jobs. So now that you get the idea, let me show you how to actually get this thing running. Well, as I mentioned, there's a couple ways to get this quickly set up, right? So you have quick start. A lot of times you just kind of want to get your way through with AI if you don't quite understand. There's usually a lot of technicalities to this. Obviously, it can get very technical, or even as easy as possible, but you got to have a little bit of technical chops in order to get this running. I personally would rather just launch this in Cursor. So what I did is I actually have 4 computers, 3 of those of which are Mac Minis, and then I have my MacBook Pro. So I thought a long time ago when I bought these Mac Minis, compute is the biggest leverage, right? When you're running with AI and systems, you think about it, us as humans operate 1-to-1, which is 1 human to 1 computer. And then a lot of times when you multitask, you start to really weigh down your computer. You start to have all these windows, you start to do a lot of things, and then your focus usually starts to go bye-bye, right? Well, I thought, why don't I just get more Mac Minis and use them in parallel, especially when I'm running heavy Cursor instances or doing a lot of AI tokenization, especially building systems for clients like we do at Top of Funnel. Essentially, I have 4x of the compute power in order to do a lot more. So what I would suggest is open up Cursor or Claude Code, but what I did is I made a script. I'll go ahead and share this in the description as well so you can download this. Essentially, this is just the walkthrough of how I went through it to set it up as a user. So when you have your Mac Mini, you're typically logging in to a user, right? That one user is typically an administrator level. Well, you definitely don't want to do that for your agent. So I would set it up as a user. That way you can constrain and limit it with a little bit more guardrails, and then set it up in such a way where you're creating essentially an employee or another login on the device. And then you'll be able to set scopes and permissions. You can start to give it a little bit more access here. And then you just start to transfer over. So this walks it over on the username, being able to create a lot of different commands here. Now you'll notice a lot of these commands, there's going to be kind of a lot of copying and pasting, because the reason for it is that these agents are not usually able to make sudo commands, which basically means super user, and you want to be able to enter in your password. That's actually a good thing. I created Mo, I created Wally, I created Eve. The basics are you need to set up, give it a name. You don't really have to, but I would try to be creative there, right? The other thing is you're going to need to set up the channel that you want to use. In my case, it was for Slack. So if you need to do WhatsApp or Telegram, you're going to set up the keys and the connection there, and just use AI API to walk you through it. There's a lot of steps there, and so try to have it navigate and even create a markdown so that way you can start to check off the list here. If you notice here, we have create Eve user account, copy OpenClaw repo. What I did was I actually just went to the repository, and then what you're going to want to do, you actually are cloning this. So you're taking a copy of this repo from GitHub, and then you're going to put it on your computer so it's mirroring it. And then the reason I recommend that is because if you clone that to the user, like Eve for example, I'm giving Eve the code base at which it operates on the actual instance and the account that it is. And the reason I did that is because if there's any point where I say, hey, you're not able to do something, or if you're not able to accomplish a task, or let's say I find a bug, I can actually say, go to this file, code yourself to fix this, and then it'll actually fix itself and then remember it. That's why I would recommend cloning it, and then you have the code. Then you can also make sure your secrets, API keys, all that stuff is actually going to be containerized as well, is on that specific user base. And then use none other than your IDE like Cursor or Claude Code or even Codex, which actually just came out. So you're going to set it up. It's going to go through these checklists. In my case, I set up Slack. So you're going to set up an app, and then you give it the scopes. You enable what you call socket, and then you enable subscription events. So that way, if I at the user, it's actually going to communicate and talk with us. Even right here, you could see that I went ahead and introduced Eve to Mo, and I just said basically, here it is, join the agent team, and then Mo, what's up? Here quite a bit. Here's the rundown. What can you do? Just kind of exploring, what you could do here. And then got it. Okay. I just basically give it context, trying to give it a little intro. And then from here, yeah, I saw you mentioned this, you on top of funnel. And then when I made Eve, I said, hey Eve, what's up? Hey, Brian is hanging out. And then I was, basically said, hey, got it. And then Mo actually tagged Eve saying on it, hey Eve, I'm the other agent in here. Brandon's got us set up to do some lead gen and things like that. So this is just a crazy, crazy time. I'm telling you. And then I could DM them individually and just give them training. They're literally employees and they're available all the time. It's basically somebody that's sitting on the computer to do whatever compute tasks that you want to do. And then once you get through all of these, right, you're going to set up the Anthropic key. There's actually a couple ways, and I was actually really surprised and still glad. You can actually use your Claude Max subscription to generate what you call an OAuth token. So instead of plugging in your API key and using Opus to rack up your bill for your API credits, you can actually OAuth, which should be good for a year, and then just use your Claude Max plan and then go from there. So I basically have 3 employees for a subscription plan that doesn't cost me API tokens. It's just all part of the inclusive plan. So hopefully that stays the same. Also just say, I want to use my Claude Max plan. You just run one terminal command for the auth login, and then you're going to actually get a token there, copy it, and then you'll be able to authenticate there. So once that's all set up, and then they're going to run the gateway. Another thing that I like to do is you do what you call a launch daemon. So if the power were to go out, or if you need to restart your computer, and I'm actually logged into the same Mac Mini, like I'm logged into Eve, I don't need to actually switch a user because you're an administrator. But if I just were to just be working and then restart the computer, I effectively have 2 people logged into this computer right now, which is Eve and myself. Okay, so you've got it installed. Now the fun part. Let's build a sales team. Just like with anything, one of the biggest things, aside from Claude Code and Clawdbot, is agent skills. Agent skills has taken off. In fact, it's becoming more standardized across everything with ChatGPT and Cursor. Basically, all the LLMs are starting to actually support compatibility for agent skills. But what you really want to do is to effectively train these agents and give them all the Claude skills that they could possibly know, and then document that. That way you give them specialty on everything. So it could be a marketer, it could be a sales negotiator, it could be good copywriter, but you're going to really want to effectively clone yourself or whoever you want to have be an employee to do it better at that job. And you want to make them almost better than you, right? You want to hire people or leverage systems that could allow you to do much more productive, better work. So I would definitely take some focus here on agent skills, and it's pretty simple. But then if I were even to copy this URL, or if you go to copy page, and you can even copy it as markdown right here, you can actually inject that or put that into the prompt to say, hey, I need you to create a Claude skills for this agent and document it. And this is what I want you to do. This is what we sell. This is what we do. This is our ICP. This is what you need to do through the process. This is who you look for. And the other biggest thing is if you were to tell Claude or any LLM, if you ask them to do cold email, a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, let's set up an outreach campaign. We're going to set up 2 email accounts and we're going to do 30 emails a day. I'm just going to be real with you. If you're doing 30 emails a day with one account and it's your primary domain, that's going to take a long time before you get some positive replies. So what you want to do is do it the instantly way, or what I like to call just basically cold outreach. That's the real stuff. You're going to want to actually walk through, take screenshots, start to walk through everything when it comes to how to do cold outreach. Talk about your sequencer, namely instantly, on how many accounts that you need to have. So if you have a specific amount of domains and inboxes, for example, if you know you need to have a specific amount of closes versus to calls and meetings versus to replies and then to outreach, that is how you can reverse engineer your funnel. And typically a good benchmark is anywhere from 1 to 3%. If it's less than 1%, you might want to work on something, right? Unless you're reaching out to a very saturated market where you just need to pump out some volume. Typically for us, we recommend at least 1,000 a day, just by bare bones, just because you just need to get eyeballs and it's cold outreach, right? But the reality is it definitely works. So one of the biggest things you're going to want to do is to really weigh in. What are you looking at as far as outreach and top of funnel activities? And you really want to make sure that you explain this to your agent to say, hey, this is what it takes. This is what we have. This is what good copy looks like. People don't have a lot of attention or care to cold outreach. So you got to be really, really particular on the words you use. Never ever say, I hope this email finds you well. That's small talk. So those are literally the one-on-ones. And if you watch more videos on this channel, kind of like we talk about, is try to really emphasize on value proposition. Biggest thing is CTAs that are a no-brainer to say, yeah, sure, send it over. Like, yes, I'm interested, or I'll take a look. You're going to want to essentially brain dump and then add just continuous context to your agents. So that way they're just like an employee and they won't leave and they're pretty cost effective. As another note too, when you explain these things, you could actually just put this into regular Claude and then have it output a markdown file when you actually document these things, and then just have the actual file stored on the hard drive or at the user level. That way, when you specifically say, for Eve, for example, my agent, if I said, I need you to research everything you need to know about sales, I need you to scrape and download scripts from some top ranked YouTube channels, things like that. You can look at Hormozy and all these kinds of things and really try to understand context around how they articulate sales, how they ask the right questions, open and close probes. How do you navigate the conversation in a way that is valuable and not a lot of small talk, objectively action items, that kind of thing, and have it marked down or write into a markdown file and store that in a good spot so that way it knows. And then what you do is you reference a Claude skill to always reference that as far as SOPs, right? So if you have standard operating procedures, it's always going to follow that. That way your employee is always going to know the rules and they're not going to hallucinate and send you something that is very embarrassing, anything that's going to give you a bad rap. So all this to say, what I would just definitely recommend is you just got to dive in. Go to OpenClaw.ai, and then if you go scroll down, there's a lot of ways, like I said, to actually get it set up, which are these ones right here. But you don't need to be super technical. I would just say go to the GitHub repository, which is right here. It's going to do that. You're just going to go to code. You're going to copy this and then open yourself a new window. You're just going to go right here and you're just going to say clone repo. I'm going to paste it. You hit enter and then it's going to say, okay, where do you want to save it to, right? It's going to be a folder in your hard drive, and then just literally paste in this markdown file that'll be in the description and just say, I just put this agent setup in here, this Mac Mini. This is going to be Eve. Help me set this up. You can name it and it's going to read it, and you walk through everything here. It has its to-dos. Good. Eve user doesn't exist. Okay, cool. Just start to say, like, this is what I want to set it up as. I'd rather have it this. Is it secure? And then you're going to start running all of these sudo commands, running it through, making sure it's good to go. Create Eve Slack app and get tokens. Again, walk it through, go to api/slack.com. You start to name it. You do all the secret tokens and everything, and then you write it down, and then you just keep rolling through that. So with all that said, more Clawdbot content will be coming soon, but if you want to dive deeper into how to actually use instantly.ai and get all that set up properly, but you don't want to sit in the software UI for hours trying to figure out everything out, just click here and watch the next one. In that one, I give you a full step-by-step tutorial on how to use Instantly.ai, and I break down everything from setting up your domains to writing campaigns that actually gets replies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there.